Hello and welcome. Today we are going to tackle something that seems, well, kind of small, but it can cause huge headaches in any data project: how we name our files. And look, this isn't just about being neat and tidy. This is about building a system that's clear, that's shareable, and that actually tells the story of your work from the very beginning to the very end. Okay, let's dive in and go from chaos to clarity.
All right, be honest with me. Does any of this look a little familiar? I mean, the endless folder of untitled documents, or that classic soul-crushing saga of final doc versus final doc? Yeah, we've all been there. This digital chaos, this data dumpster, is exactly what we're going to learn how to prevent.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to put a name to the mess, the data dumpster problem. Then, we'll talk about why good file names really matter. After that, we'll jump into a super practical 4-part naming plan, break down what a good file name actually looks like, cover some essential do's and don'ts, and finally, see how your files can tell a clear, coherent story.
All right, Section 1, let's start by officially calling that chaos what it is. We're calling it the data dumpster problem. You know the feeling. It's that frustrating state where finding that one crucial file feels less like a logical search and more like a game of pure dumb luck.
So let's get a little more specific here. As we go through these next few points, I want you to just think about your own projects. Do any of these hit a little too close to home? Have you ever stared at multiple versions of a file, completely clueless about which one is the right one? Or had that moment of panic, searching for a file you know you saved? Or, oh, this is the worst one, you and a collaborator realize you've both been working on 2 different latest drafts. These aren't just little annoyances, right? They are serious roadblocks to actually getting work done. Okay, so we've all felt the pain of the problem. But fixing it, well, it's about so much more than just having a clean-looking folder. It's about building a foundation of professional rigor and making sure your entire workflow is solid and trustworthy. And this brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer. I want you to let this sink in. Let your file names tell the story of your project. Think about that for a second. When you sort them alphabetically, they shouldn't be some random jumble. They should reveal a clear, coherent narrative of your project's journey, from the raw data all the way to the final publication. So the goals here are way bigger than just organization. A good plan makes your work reproducible because it reinforces every single step you take. It clearly establishes the provenance, basically the origin, of every single file. And crucially, it prepares your entire project for sharing and publication right from day one. So, how do we actually do this? Well, it's not as complicated as you might think. We're going to use a simple, memorable 4-part framework to build consistently clear and informative file names every single time. Here they are, the 4 building blocks. First up, provenance, which is just where the file came from. Second, function, what its purpose is in your workflow. Third, contents, a simple description of what's inside. And fourth, version, which puts the file on a timeline. So that's provenance, function, contents, version. Let's break each of those down. All right, let's see how this actually works in practice. We're going to dissect each of those 4 parts and see how they all come together to create a file name that is genuinely useful. Okay, part 1 is provenance. This starts with a short mnemonic. That's just a memorable abbreviation that identifies the project. So, for example, if you're working on the annual marketing report, your mnemonic might be AMR. If it's for Project Nightingale, it could be PN. This tiny thing immediately tells anyone, including your future self, exactly which project this file belongs to. Super simple, super effective. Part 2 is function. And this is brilliant because it shows how your file names can actually mirror your research process. You can use a simple numbering system that aligns with the data science workflow. So like 1 for getting the data, 2 for cleaning it, 3 for exploring it, and so on. This makes sure that when you sort your files, they literally appear in the logical order they should be run. It's a game changer. Next up is part 3, the contents. This is just a short, human-readable description, and the goal here is incredibly simple but powerful. You should know what's in the file without having to click on it and open it. A name like clean SIPE tells you instantly that this file contains the cleaned SIPE dataset. No more guesswork. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most cursed part of any file name, the version. We have all lived through the absolute horror story on this slide, haven't we? Final Rev 2, Final Rev 8 Comments 5. It's just a recipe for total disaster. I love this quote because it's just so true. So let's make a pact right now, all of us. Never, ever name a file final. It won't be. And honestly, you're just asking for trouble. Thankfully, there is a much, much better way. The solution is simple and it's elegant. Use the International Standard for Dates, which is year, month, day. YYMMDD. When you put the date at the end of your file name in this format, your computer's sorting function becomes your absolute best friend. Everything will automatically line up in perfect chronological order. No more guessing which final is the actual final version. Okay, so we've got our four-part structure down. Now let's just quickly cover a few golden rules, some essential do's and don'ts that will make sure your file names are robust and they work everywhere.
Rule number 1, and this is a big one, do not use spaces in file names. I know your computer might handle it just fine, but a lot of command line tools and programming languages will just choke on it. Instead, use underscores to separate words, that's called snake case, or capitalize the first letter of each word, which is known as camel case. And here are a few more quick but really crucial rules. First, try to stick to lowercase letters. It avoids a lot of headaches when you move files between different operating systems. Second, just avoid special characters entirely. They can mean other things in code. Third, keep your names descriptive but concise. And finally, when you're writing code, use relative paths. That just means pointing to a file in the same folder. So if you send the whole project to someone, all the links still work perfectly.
So, let's bring this all home. After you implement this plan, what's the big payoff? Well, you get to move from total chaos to complete clarity. Your files finally start to tell a clear, logical story.
I mean, just look at this. The image is called A Story Told in File Names, but it's a really confusing story of trial and error, right? Now imagine that same folder, but the files read like this. AMR1A, obtain sales data. AMR2A, clean sales data. AMR3A, explore trends. You see? That's not just a list of files. That's a readable, reproducible workflow. That is the story you want your files to tell.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about as you kick off your next project. If someone were to open your project folder and just sort the files by name, what story would it tell them? Would it be a story of chaos and confusion, or one of clarity, purpose, and professional rigor? The choice is entirely yours.